45 minutes.
There we go. Hello there. This is Ian Nethercott from the famous AutoHub Show podcast, and this is our famous one-on-one interview show. Even though it says behind me it's live, it's not. But that doesn't mean that we don't do 2 live shows a week, one on Monday, which is our main show, and then our new Fixed Stop show, which is on Friday afternoons. So if you are interested in tuning into the live show, it streams on multiple platforms. And of course, we're always looking for great guests. And of course, we love sponsors, but that's totally up to you. So I had the pleasure of interviewing a friend of mine that I've known online for quite a while and never done an interview, so I didn't hear the whole story. So today we're going to hear a little bit more about the story of Robert and why he chose the career path, which is the car business, because we know everyone has a different story. So Robert, tell me more about why the car business.
What's up, Ian? Thank you so much for having me on the show, man.
No worries.
Why the car business? I mean, you know, like a new driver of a big 18-wheeler backs into a building accidentally.
Yeah.
That's how I lost my job. I was managing a manufacturing facility down in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Okay.
And Beaufort is a marine town. It's mainly the Marine Corps Air Force Air Station.
Yeah.
And then really not much else, not a lot of industry at that time. This is 1993-ish.
Yeah.
And then about really 1994. And I came up to Charleston, South Carolina. I was looking for a job. And next thing you know, I see these promises in the newspaper. You can make $60,000, which in 1994 was real money.
Yeah.
And selling cars, right? And no experience needed, this, that, the other. I was like, well, I like the $60,000 a year thing. So I went ahead and applied. And of course, they would hire anybody that would breathe. So
do you have a heartbeat? Do you got a driver's license? Rock and roll, baby.
Yeah, they forgot to ask me how far I lived. I lived an hour and a half away. So I drove an hour and a half to work and an hour and a half back home every day, 3-hour commute. It was like living in LA. But I did it for 6 months, and then I rented a place in Charleston, so I came closer to work. So I started out in sales. I was with Mazda and Volkswagen, of course, used cars. It was an interesting situation, a dealership that was owned by a second-generation man. He inherited the dealership from his dad, and he was selling all of 28 cars, was his best month for the year of 1993. And then the group bought it that I worked for, and they took it from the max of 28, best month for 93, 28, to as good as 150 cars in 1994. Wow. So quite a change, quite a transformation. It was exciting times to be there.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a friend of mine who works for a dealer. I think it's a CMA group dealer in finance in Virginia. And we were talking about back when I worked for a Honda dealer, which at the time was one of the largest in Canada. And they were selling 400 new rides a month and about 100 used. And wow. She was like, "Oh yeah, we sell 130 new cars a month." I'm like, "Yeah, it seems kind of low." And she said, "Yeah, but we sell 50 used in that number." I'm like, "Okay." And I was like, "I used to work at a dealer that sold 400, so that seems a little light." And then I found out more about the city. I think it's Spartanburg, Virginia, which is not very big. But it was interesting because when you look at volumes in the 90s, and I think I finished college in 93. I was in Philadelphia at the time. You know, when you look at a volume of say 400 to 500 cars or 500 to 800 cars today, I think it's was it Beaver Toyota was the first Toyota store in North America to sell 400 used in 1 month. It's interesting because when you look at that journey, and I had the luxury of listening to a call where the used car director talked about moving from 50 used cars to 400 in 1 month and what that journey was. It's interesting, but it's more importantly, it's not like I can suddenly buy 800 used cars and sell 400. Like, it's not that easy. And I think people forget that. So what are you doing these days? Obviously, you're not selling used cars for $60,000 a year.
Well, I did that for 4.5 years. And then it turned out that the service department at the dealership that I worked for was terrible. I started getting people that were complaining. They said, "We love you. We want to buy all of our cars from you, but we're not servicing here." So I had I was working. Yeah. They said, "You got to find a dealership." No. And I talked to the general manager. He wouldn't do anything about it. He was all sales oriented, like a lot of GMs are. Yeah. That's right. So I was like, "Yeah, I can't hang around. This is not going to work." But then I had the manufacturing background that I started with. Remember, I moved to South Carolina with this manufacturer. I ran a manufacturing plant. I had 70 employees. So I said, you know what? The service department is basically a manufacturing facility. I'm going to make a switch to service. Problem, now I had 4.5 years worth of sales experience, and nobody wanted to hire a salesperson to be a service manager, which is what I wanted to be right away. And I said, you know what? Screw it. I'll be a service advisor.
Yeah.
So I got a job as a service advisor. Yes. So that's how I made the transition to service. But I was lunatic. I was a lunatic. I mean, I would read every book I could get my hands on, all the books about customer service, client experience. I even believed the stuff that this consultant came and trained us in, like a 2 day seminar. He had this book about doing what did he call it? I'm not going to remember, some kind of marketing. So, but it was really good stuff, actually. He talked about relationship building through newsletters, through contacting customers. So I did that in sales. I was the first guy to sell 28, 30 cars a month. It was 28, but it was 30 units because I split a bunch of those units in that dealership. So they sold 150. The average salesperson would sell 8 to 10.
Yeah,
I sold as many as 30. But because I followed what these people said, the people that have been there, done that, and they shared their knowledge. Same with service. I said, well, let me see what the best people in the country are doing. So I figured out what the best are doing. I lucked out. I went to work for Hilton and Honda, which was #1 in the Southeast. And in the first year, I became the service manager. And the first year I was a service manager, we won the Southeast again. So I stayed there long enough so that they can teach me doing things the right way. I had no credit in winning the Southeast. I mean, that's just not my thing. It was their thing. They had systems, they had the processes, they had the complete care kind of approach, which is what I preach today. You know, you ask me, what am I doing today? So I've got a website. I've got, the website is the least of it. It's basically a placeholder for a website. It doesn't matter. You know, websites are all right, but they're not going to get the job done for you. Right. It's just basically a way to contact me. But we have a training platform, which is an online training platform for leadership, for service department leadership, for service advisor, service sales training. Mm-hmm. And you can do it 2 ways. You can do the online modules and then, well, actually 3 ways. Just do the online stuff or do in-person training, then follow it up with the online, or start online and then do in person. I mean, that's probably the best way. But it all started from that switch because I was losing sales customers. I couldn't sell anymore because these customers said, hey, Robert, we love you. We've already bought several cars from you. We want to buy all of our cars from you. But the way your service department is going, we're not buying here anymore. I mean, literally, I would go get a cup of coffee in the morning when I went into work. My customer was there getting an oil change. And then when I left for lunch at noon, the same customer is still there. And I asked him the question, are you getting accessories or did you decide to, I don't know, do a bigger service? Like, nope, still the oil change from 8:30 this morning. 3.5, 4 hours later, and this was consistent. So when I went into service, I decided to flip that upside down. We had appointments every half an hour and technicians on standby for walk-ins, for drive-ins. So we were able to take care of everybody. But we had a guarantee. The average oil change was about 27, 28 minutes in my service department.
So fast forward to today. I mean, I've had a number of shows on Fixed Ops about Celery One tires. I did one on video MPIs the other week. I'm doing one on increasing parts costs today, which should be interesting just because of tariffs. But, you know, I remember years ago working for Dealer FX, and I was training a bunch of different dealers all over North America, both, you know, Chrysler dealers, Audi, Toyota, Mitsubishi. And I thought the biggest misstep for the dealers I trained was just a lack of basic sales skill from the service writer perspective. Like, it was like, okay, well, yeah, it's a sales job. It's not, I'm being of help, even though that's part of it. It's like, hey, someone's walking in the door like they're at a restaurant. Yeah, they're here for service, whatever, but there's other opportunities that can be identified if you're smart enough to, you know, identify them, but more importantly, smart enough to explain them. And I think that was an eye opener for me. I had Trade Pending and UVI on. Not to say either one is necessarily good or bad. They was just interesting companies to me. And we talked about video. My question today is, when you look at the tools moving from, say, Hunter, which was an old tool that I think is still out there, to like tools like UVI, which take like 20,000 photos or something. You know, how do you start training a service writer who maybe is not doing as well as they could be, or just doesn't know the basics of how to talk to a customer about their car? Like, I just don't know. So maybe you can add some insight.
Well, so my main goal, the goal of our training is to infuse the service driver with a caring attitude, with a complete care attitude. And if they don't believe in service, we're going to try to train them to believe in service for the customer, to understand that these customers are not like them. If their car is a piece of junk and they don't take care of their own car, well, that's a problem. But at the same time, I'm okay with that if they can transition into allowing the customer to take an exceptional care of their vehicle. So it starts with casting a vision. It starts with leadership. You know, the fish stinks from the head, they say.
Yeah.
And it's all about leadership. John Maxwell says that everything rises and falls on leadership. So
yeah.
Even the sales training, it has to start with the service manager. If that service manager doesn't model the kind of process, the kind of sales process even, and mental attitude and the way he talks or she talks about customers, if secretly behind closed doors, if the service manager talks crap about customers, well, the service advisor is going to understand that we don't respect people here. We're actually stealing their money. We're doing unethical things. So that's unacceptable. You've got to set up services that make sense, and don't be afraid to set them up to be profitable. You've got to be profitable. In many cases, you've got dealerships who are afraid to charge the prices that the independent within a mile down the road is already charging. And they're thinking it's about retention. Yeah. Well, retention is not about pricing. Retention is not about being cheaper. Now, you got to do a good job and actually call, let's say, the places like someone told me today that they always go to AAA. Okay. And I hate to say it, in our town, unfortunately, the current, well, at least 2 years ago, was my last visit, but the then management is giving automotive a bad name. They literally are more expensive than the dealer for the same service.
Oh, I know.
And the quality of the work is lower. So it's up to the service manager to have a good training process, or if she can't do it, call in an outside company. Help your staff understand, make those calls to these other places and price shop certain services. And you'll see that a synthetic oil change at an independent with a good MPI is about $130, and the dealer is selling for $69.95. And then people are still screaming at them for being expensive, maybe some. But the problem is that we tend to believe the few and start saying, well, you see, we had a person scream at us this month because we're expensive. But there were 2,059 who were happy with the service, and they don't care about the pricing. That same person would scream at you if that oil change was $29. But first and foremost, it takes a vision. So it has to be a service manager. Often you can have a new leader come in and they'll cast a vision. You got to do lots of meetings, by the way. You do have to do lots of meetings. Yeah. One thing you know about the current leadership in the United States, whether you like them or not, they have a lot of presence all over the place. You know what they stand for. You like their direction. You don't like their direction. I don't know. But you know what they stand for. So as a service manager, you go in, you take over a new department. I'm still talking about sales, by the way. How does a service advisor sell? Yeah. You got to come in and have a vision meeting. And together with the staff, you say, hey, guys and ladies and gentlemen, what's going to be our vision here? What is our mission? What are we going to accomplish together? So I've got some documents from when I was a service manager back in 2001 was when I took over. Well, it was maybe a year earlier, but I happened to find one of the documents that I gave out to all my people. And it was based on what we talked about together. It was Mission 2001. It was the mission. Now, that's 24 years ago, right? That's how long I've been in this car business. You would think I can't walk anymore. It's so long ago. Yeah. But it was to become the number one in the Southeast, but perhaps the nation, for Kia, Subaru, and back then we still had Isuzu. So we managed to do that. That's right. Well, Isuzu was good enough to me that when we won the Southeast, they gave away a trip to a 5-diamond resort in Playa del Carmen. So I went to Isuzu to Playa del Carmen in Mexico, and Isuzu's dime. And they tried. They tried really hard. They had 120 of us there, 120 the service managers from all over the country. Amazing 5 days. But anyway, so you cast that vision, develop a common vision and mission and goals, and articulate what will happen if we achieve these. I mean, if you delight your clients every time they come in, what will happen? They'll eat out of your hands, which is what I learned in the first year at Honda. That once they learn to trust you, they know that you're looking out for their benefit, and you'll tell them up front that, look, our recommendations are a little bit ahead of the factory. We don't believe in waiting until your things are so worn that you now have to do a repair. So our recommendations are ahead of the factory schedule, and these are the best practices. These are the best services that we recommend. But it's got to be a combined shared mission values that the service manager walks. They got to walk the talk and shares often. Very often, you got to share. So you got to have regular meetings. You got to have this vision, mission, and goals in writing. You got to have it in video format. Put it in any format that your staff can actually get it. So infuse the heart. Get the heart. What we train is complete care. Get that heart to have the complete care. Then you can train them on verbiage, and you can actually coach people on what language to use when you're presenting these services and how to translate technical terms into layperson's terms so that a customer can understand these things, right? But the most important one, above all, if you can get them to care enough and make a commitment, 100% commitment, no excuses, to actually offer complete care at each visit, then they'll find the words. You can even just tell the customer, I apologize, I'm new. I don't know the best words, but I know these are the things that I do at this mileage. And the technician also, based on the multi-point inspection, he found these items that are needed at this time. These are the red ones. These are the yellow ones. These are, and by the way, 80% of the items on this list are in the green, so you don't have to worry about them. Tires are below the minimum, and you know your stopping distance increases by 100 feet at this point. So if you have to apply the brakes in an emergency, you'd be sliding for another 100 feet. You know, so you can train these things. You have to train these things. But the caring thing, so if you cannot get them to care enough to offer complete care, and you've got people that make excuses after spending time with them, you model that behavior, you model the expectation. There's several levels to this, which is why we train leadership. We train leadership to service managers specifically. And your service advisor is still afraid to recommend to present complete care at each visit. They don't belong into this industry. They probably don't belong in sales. In sales, our goal is, and the way I describe it, is that you always want to offer a client the best combination, the best quality, quantity, and frequency of services, which will keep their vehicle protected. So the best combination, quality, quantity, and frequency of services based on their use of the vehicle. That's the final goal. So these things have to be articulated. When you have a sales team, because that's what you have in service, you have a service sales team that really understands these things, that we're going to offer you, Mr. Nethercott, every time you come in, when I first introduced myself to you, thank you so much for coming to our service department. Every single visit you're going to come in, we're going to, based on what you tell me, that how you use the vehicle, whether it's in the city or long distance driving, whatever, nighttime driving, which makes a difference too. Those headlights, if you have an older vehicle, let's get those headlights polished or renewed or replaced in some cases. So I really need to care for your condition, but I'm going to recommend services. I'm going to offer you services to keep your vehicle in top shape. And it's always up to you how much of it you do or don't do. But you're not going to find another more caring place in this town, not even in the state, perhaps not in the United States. And I really want it to be the universe. You know, I don't want you to even think of, when you think of any business, any standard, I want you to say, man, I wish this business did as good as my service department. So I really want to become the standard for care. When these customers go anywhere else, I want them to say, man, you need to call Robert, or you need to call Ian at this dealership and find out how to serve customers, because they're really knocking it out of the park. So the passion, the passion that the manager, the leader brings is what's going to infuse it. So I call it Mitch leadership. It's a model that I came up with a few years back. Mitch leadership. I don't know can I go ahead and share it, or you had another question for me?
I had another question. So Obviously with tariffs, we're going to see increases in pricing in parts and cars and probably service and I would assume door rate just because costs will go up. How do you suggest that say dealership who's got a well-trained sales team on the service side, so service writers in this case or partsmen, handles that objection from a customer says, "Hey, last time I was here, my Type B service cost X. Why is it Y?" And is that something that should be discussed before the appointment, or should they be talking about it at point of sale when the customer comes in? Like, what? How do you think the dealer should handle that?
So successful dealers, obviously most dealers are successful, but successful dealers can ease the customer into it. So you could approach this several ways. You can take the stance that, well, everybody knows that tariffs are happening, and the 80-20 rule probably applies, that 80% of customers will expect a price increase. So it would be probably smart from dealerships to go ahead and give your technicians and service advisors maybe a bump in their base pay a little bit, to say, to account for what they're saying, that it could be every American family now might feel a $1,300 to $5,000. I've heard all kinds of numbers increase in their expenses. So to pass that on into your cost, that would be natural. However, as a successful dealership, you could say, we're going to freeze pricing for 90 days and then gradually ease you in, and not go crazy and all of a sudden right away increase your pricing. It depends on you. You're going to spend a lot of money on marketing anyways. And the problem with marketing is only half of the money that you spend on it works, but you don't know which half. So this, it works. You know this works. So take care of your customers, your clients that have been supporting you for years. But maybe what you could do, increase the pricing and tell the customers, empower your advisors to say, look, if you've got anyone struggling, they come in and they see the pricing and they're struggling. You say, hey, we want to help you. We'll honor that last price, whatever you paid last time, 6 months ago or 2 years ago. 99% of customers, however, are not going to complain, because 25%, come on, 25% increase on parts cost is 25% increase on parts cost, and it's not all parts either. So It's really not going to be a net increase of 25%. So a service that was $1,000, let's say it was $1,000 1 month ago, that's not all parts. In many cases, it's mainly labor. So you might have but let's say it's 50-50. So if it's $500 parts, $500 labor, that's $125 increase on the $500. So now you've got $625 in parts, but you still got $500 in labor. Now, if you increase your labor $1 an hour to give your guys a raise or whatever, a couple bucks, they're not going to notice that. So $1,000 service becomes $1,150. If you're going to lose the $1,150, you would have lost $1,000 service. Here's the best news. Most people actually don't have a clue what services cost. So we are like the epoxy, like that two-part kind of glue, that if you don't, negotiation of pricing starts at hello. It actually starts at the first phone call and first human they interact with. Even the website, if the website is a mess, it takes me too many steps to make that appointment. If it's difficult, if it's hard to do business with you, then that negotiation is getting already messed up from that. And you get to the pricing, and now you've got someone who's going to resist you. But if you come out in the service lane and say, good morning, Mr. Nethercott, we've been expecting you. Thank you so much for coming in. I've got you down for such and such service. Right now it's 8 a.m. We're going to have you done by 11 a.m. And it looks like we've got you scheduled for a service drive. I mean, we'll give you a ride. And you're professional. You follow up. So you tell people what you're going to do. You do exactly what you told them. And then you remind them of exactly that you did what you promised. So you're known as a promise keeper. I mean, it's not going to be as big of a push as we think it would be. People would be shocked. But again, if you want to really knock the socks off your customers, give them a month of grace period to kind of get over the shock and say, we know it's been shocking in the news and everything is scaring everybody, but at least at our dealership, we want you to know that for the next 30 days, we're going to extend the same pricing. And that will be your marketing. You can do an email blitz, you can do a video.
Yeah.
The owner should do the video, really. The owner or general manager, and say to our beloved customers, this is a special message to let you know that while there's a lot of talk about tariffs and increased pricing, here at Hometown Mazda, Hometown Toyota, whatever, we are freezing prices for the next 90 days for our service customers. So we'd love to see you. Come on, book your appointment today, and we'll take great care of your vehicle just the same way that we have done for years. Whatever. By the way, Toyota dealers can do another blitz really well that I really wish they did. Every Toyota dealer, I would charge for this knowledge that I'm about to impart right now. I would charge big money. Listen, Toyota dealers right now could do their customers a huge service if they did this little marketing blitz. There are several vehicles in the Toyota lineup that are a nightmare to jumpstart. Literally, there's such a thing as common knowledge. Has anybody heard about common knowledge? It's a legal term. In legal terms, common knowledge is something that everybody knows works a certain way. Jumpstarting a vehicle is common knowledge. If you Googled it right now, you will find some photos where they give you a diagram how to jumpstart a car. You put one of the terminals here and another one on the ground, any bolt on the body. That's what it said. But anyways, Toyota has changed that for the Toyota Sienna hybrid. It happened to my neighbor, and they blew the ECU jump-starting their car. So listen, I did a little Google search. There are hundreds of people. There are forums of people mad at Toyota. One guy, his wife left the vehicle, the door open, and the light killed the battery on a 1-month-old Sienna. He jump-started incorrectly, blew the ECU, and he had to pay for a $1,600 ECU out of pocket because warranty doesn't cover it.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Compare that to any late model Volvo, and you'll see that when you open the hood of a Volvo, you see, put the red terminal here, put the black one here. It's clearly marked.
Yeah.
But Toyota left the bolt that blows the ECU right there next to the fuse box cover for you to put the terminal on it. So people are blowing ECUs left and right. But if I was a Toyota dealer today, I would send my customers out a letter. All of the vehicles affected, whether it's Sienna or Celica, whatever, the Corolla. Yeah. So there's some other models that are affected, and say, hey, just in case you ever need to jumpstart your vehicle, we have a label for you. Create a label, invite them in, and have a label that you stick on the fuse box with the diagram how to jumpstart correctly, or maybe even create a dang plug that you put on the bolt that blows the ECU. Guess what would happen? We're going to give you a free car wash, and we'll say hello. Don't try to sell them anything. Get them in for this. Schedule them in. It's a free service that you offer as a dealer. Mm-hmm. Where are they going to go when they need another car?
Yeah, exactly. Free inspection.
Where are they going to go for service?
Product update, whatever it might be. Like I was thinking about this when I heard about this tariff, and I was like, okay, I got an inventory of parts. I'm a car dealer. I got a bunch of parts, some of which I have that I needed, some of which I ordered for people that they didn't pick up. Why not have a parts sale with any over like long stock parts? Go, hey man, I got all this inventory. If you need these parts for the next 30 days, we're blowing them out. Like, clear out that inventory. Like I see this, as do you, as an opportunity. Number one, if you haven't sold them an extended warranty on the sales side, you should be. Number two, if you haven't sold prepaid maintenance, you should definitely have a conversation. Like, obviously prices are on the rise. You might want to get ahead of that. But more importantly, it's about service. Like, if I have to charge you more money, I've got to deliver more service. So when you look at, say, a steakhouse, to give an example, what's the difference between like Sizzler or Outback and, like, I don't know, Maestro's, for example, to pick some random, or Ruth Chris, pick your brand. That they both serve steaks. Are they perfect? Probably not. But the difference is pricing and service. When you go to a hotel chain, the difference between Motel 6 will leave the light on for you, or Waffle House and like a high-end place is really just about service.
That's right.
People will pay for service. So if you provide crappy service, to your point with third-party oil change like Jiffy Lube, why should Jiffy Lube be charging more for crappier service? Like, How does that make sense? I remember talking to a dealer a couple of years ago. I think it was 5 years ago. So what he did is he went to a local Jiffy Lube, and he owns an Audi store, I think. And he said, I drove my demo Audi into the store, and I said, yeah, anything they tried to sell me, I agreed to it.
Wow.
And he said, you wouldn't believe the bill that I got from these people. And he said, then I took it back to my service department. I said, what the, like, how is this possible? That you're not even attempting to sell me this stuff. So it was kind of interesting, but let's just say I have a dealership and I got a service department that maybe got a little lazy over the pandemic. The sales department was driving revenue and I didn't really care about service. It was fine. Like whatever. I'm macking it hard on sales and I got it all figured out. How did they get started? Do they get started online? Do you do an assessment? Do you do a shop analysis? Do you call the store? I mean, how do you do an evaluation for that dealer so they know like where they would start working with you?
Well, certainly calling them would be a first place. Trying to book appointments online would be a good place. Visiting and do some mystery shopping and seeing how they check in the customers. What's the process? What's the wait time mainly, really? If they're a couple of weeks out on appointments, then they're understaffed. There's not enough staff if they're consistently a couple of weeks out. So you've got to focus on the experience and looking at complete care. I mean, complete care solves everything pretty much, but it's all about customer experience. So there's a lot of reviews. You can look at reviews online, right? So those will tell the story. If they're overwhelmingly, it took them forever, it took this, if they're 3.5 stars on Google. Now, if it's all from sales department, because maybe they were charging $15,000 over on Toyota Corollas during the pandemic and people got mad, well, that's not the service department. So it's still, you have to dissect, where does that belong to? Where does the problem belong to? But yeah, it's not hard to get complacent. And, numbers matter. Effective labor rate matters. Gross profit percentage matters. But what matters even more is an overall cohesive strategy that works for the dealer. So you could have a dealer that understands that 70% of the people that service with you are very likely to at least give you a chance to buy a car from you when they need a car. So right. You need to get the people in. You need to have capacity. So you really need to staff ahead of the curve. You need to make sure that you've got technicians, and the culture is one of service. If you've got technicians, like in one service department, the guy was on rotation for a major service, which didn't show up, canceled the schedule, the appointment, and the technician is sitting behind the advisor in an office. Another customer rolls in with an older, it was Honda service department, Honda Odyssey. And the service advisor says, this is Saturday morning, says, my next appointment for an oil change is Wednesday afternoon. That's not a culture of service. So these things, you notice these, best thing is travel there. The best thing is travel to this and sit in the service department, observe the activity in the drive. And you see these things. And of course, there was the guy who was just told about 5 minutes earlier that his appointment for a major service, that they had a rotation going, is not coming. They canceled. He was with his feet up on the desk. He could have done that oil change for this customer, but they made an assumption that this kind of customer doesn't buy services. So it's not worth doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just like we were talking earlier, how to sell services to dealers. Well, you got to show up. You got to show up consistently. So with a customer who declines services all the time, but now he comes in and maybe he's got wires hanging out of his tires. You don't know. Maybe you can see the air through the tire. You don't know because you didn't give yourself an opportunity to put it on the lift. So you got to see, is it a culture of excellence? Is it a culture of service, which you can determine from the looks of the department too? Are the desk, the service advisor, that's messy? Is there a disaster all over? What's going on?
Will
what's
that be
going
an
on?
assessment or like a service health check, or how?
Yeah, an assessment, definitely.
Dealer? So let's just say I own a Chrysler store, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram store, and you come in and you go, okay, I'm going to do an assessment of your service department. I'm going to be there for 8 hours or whatever. I'm going to do I'm gonna sit there sort of in disguise with a mustache or whatever, and sort of like Charlie Chaplin or whatever. Do they then get like a health report? Like, here's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, how does that work?
So it can work that way, certainly. Often dealerships will just call us in because they already know they've got a problem.
Yeah.
So they don't need me to tell them that they've got a problem. Now we'll help them pinpoint some of the problems and then take it from there. But yes, there's a checklist and assessment that we do for a service department for their service advisor performance. We look at numbers, we do RO analysis, look at what's going on with each repair order. And then based on that, and based on what we see in the service drive, based on the assessment, facility condition, technician service advisor interaction, parts department interaction, how are things going, special order parts process. We put all that together and then cover each step with the service department. One of the areas that we also provide training in, and that's something that I've got a really close connection to me that helps me out with, he's a disc expert. So we look at how people handle conflict. What do they do? Are they ready? Are they ready to? Do they have a strategy for hot situations, or is it just all panic? If something hot happens, how do they handle it? Do they have a quick, easy process to take care of the customer without any hassle? Because that's one of the keys. If you want to grow a business, you've got to take care of any hassle situation, whether it's a warranty or something that customers complaining about. You've got to have the process, and the manager's got to be quickly available to back the service advisor up. Whether we're giving away something to the customer, agreeing, obviously you have to do some research, but that's a process also. Do they have a process for asking a few questions of the customer to find out who's really responsible? And even if the customer is fully responsible, is there a process for making the customer feel at ease and allowing them to save face? So these all help us evaluate and determine what kind of training is needed, what skill level is needed. So we develop a PDF, a personal development file, together with the service manager for the department. But most importantly, if the service manager is not involved, we've got to start there. So there's no way that I would like to get involved with any service department in training if a service manager is not fully involved. If he's so overwhelmed with administrative stuff, or so backed up because warranties in his entire disaster, their warranty schedule out of control, we can't get started. The service manager has got to be fully available. He's got to be the one that carries that coaching forward, because in that leadership model that we have, and any leadership model really, you need coaching. It's not enough to come in and train one time. We can do some of it, and if the dealership so desires, then we can do follow-up phone calls. We do follow-up phone calls with all the service advisors, technicians, do coaching of our own. But still, if you've got the real leader, the real charismatic person in the facility, steering them a different way, he's modeling different behavior, and he's got clout over them, he's got influence over the team, you'll never achieve anything. You've got to find out who's the real leader. Actually, sometimes it's not even the service manager. Sometimes it's a master technician, or it's a foreman. So you find out who's the most influential person, and if it's good, great. Then we make an ally out of that person, and we try to get them to help us build this department up. Really, once we share the vision and we share what things are possible, that we improve everybody's life by doing good training, by implementing good processes, and really taking care of the customer. It's complete care for everyone. I want everybody to care for the next person equally. So that's the customer, the management, the owner. I want the owner to be as rich as all get out, because a wealthy owner can share some of that wealth. Right. I want the owner to be profitable. So complete care towards the owner too means that I'm going to try to sell every service profitable, but not to the extent that I'm trying to protect every penny so much. Then when we did the wrong thing, I'm going to delay doing the right thing. If we did the wrong thing, if we messed up, quickly. I learned this from an owner a long time ago. He gave me the best lesson. I was talking to a customer. We did a fuel sender recall, and the car had a little bit of fuel smell.
Yeah.
His wife was pregnant. She went home with the car with the fuel smell. We messed up.
Yeah.
we messed up. We should have told them that the vehicle needed to stay or air it out, either or make them aware that that's gonna be a thing, but it's not a problem. It's just from that recall and because the tank was open, whatever. This guy was livid. So the owner got involved, got on the phone. I was right there next to him because he called the owner. Somehow he got the owner's number. And the owner looked at me and said, Robert, get in the car. Let's go get his car. And the owner and I went to the guy's house, delivered the loaner. We picked up the car. We detailed it for them. We let it air out. And we returned the car when it was completed. So from that day on, my motto is get in the car. Let's take care of the issue. A great service department doesn't dwell on a bad situation. You have a plan for bad situations, and we call them alligators. You know, actually, I've got a document here. I'll show you if I can find it. It says, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yep, I can see something there. Yeah, special alligator.
Yeah, alligators.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was a horror movie. It was called The Alligator, and in that horror movie, they finally captured the alligator that was killing people all over town. And then the end, this father flushed another baby alligator down the toilet, which is how this alligator got into this town and grew up in the sewer system, and it started wreaking havoc. But anyways, when an alligator shows up that can cause damage, capture it quickly, handle it, remove it, and then you can move on with regular business. So yeah, we evaluate the facility, we evaluate the activity, evaluate individual performance, look at the numbers also, but we look at much more. There's always a story, and you can have somebody that apparently is a great performer, but really is not pulling their weight on some of the other stuff. So there you got somebody who's working really hard, but because of how this great performer is working the system, is making the other person look bad, who's just as good of an employee. So we help put things into perspective. It takes a team to really serve customers well. So then we take it from there, do the training, and with the goal of complete care, and then crazy retention. You want to get all the people in that you can, make sure your capacity really serves your market well, and a little bit more, so that you never turn people away so badly that you don't delay their service for so long that they actually go to the aftermarket. Because again, 70% of people will buy cars from you. So if you can increase your monthly vehicle service by 100 over a year, that's 1,200. So you've got, 700 potential new car sales because you increase the amount of cars you're servicing every month.
Exactly. So how did someone get started? How did they find you, Robert?
Probably looking at this on LinkedIn. Well, I guess it's YouTube too, so any other platform. But the LinkedIn crowd, send me a DM on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. Other than that, you can call me, find my profile on LinkedIn, call me, or send an email.
There will be details below in the description. And then how long does it take to turn around a service department?
How long? It depends on their commitment level. It can take as little as 6 months to see dramatic results. In 1 year, you can really turn a service department around. You can go from the worst in every metric to the best in your market and better than benchmark. Benchmark will be a joke. You can have benchmark crushing numbers within a year. But again, you got to put numbers in perspective. So we help dealers put numbers into perspective and make sure that they know what their goal is and they're crushing their goals. So, and in some cases, you might have a really great performing department, but they have never adjusted their warranty labor rate. Their labor rates, parts pricing is just way out of control. And in that case, in 2 to 3 months, you can already see tremendous results, because those numbers will fix themselves pretty quick if you fix the numbers.
Fantastic. Well, if you want results for your service department in 2025, as we look at longer ownership term ever, like the longest term ever for cars today, and obviously handling things like price increases, cost increases, difficult customers, sorting out leadership, and really driving goal achievement in your dealership. You want to reach out to Robert. He can do an assessment and give you a sense of what that would cost and fix the problem. Because at the end of the day, there's problems and there's solutions, but the challenge is getting people to actually help you solve those problems. But thanks for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. And have yourself a great weekend. And of course, if you are curious about price increases in sales and service, we're doing a show today, Friday, and we'll be doing another one on Monday about tariffs, the elephant in the room. Thanks very much for watching.
Thank you, Ian.
And, have yourself a great day.
Thank you, everyone.